It's a new year and a new chance for you to make a fresh start with your compliance. We're going to be bringing you a daily tip, strategy, or idea that you can use to improve your program. Here's your host, Tom Fox, the Compliance Evangelist.
Now, a quick word from our sponsor, and we'll be right back. Day 18, levels of due diligence. Due diligence is generally recognized in three levels, level 1, 2, and 3. Each level is appropriate for a different level of corruption risk. The key is to develop a mechanism to determine the appropriate level of due diligence, then implement that going forward. The 2020 update stated, a well-designed compliance program should apply risk-based due diligence to its third-party relationships. Although the need for and degree of appropriate due diligence may be based on the size and nature of the company, transaction, and third party, you should assess to the extent to which the company has an understanding of the qualifications, such as payments, bribes to foreign officials, etc. The question becomes how you use the information you obtained in the business justification and questionnaire to determine the appropriate level of due diligence. A three-step approach of varying levels of due diligence is a proper approach or a proper analysis to take going forward. In opinion release 1002, it laid out this approach. The opinion release sets out a clear break from which every compliance practitioner should use in considering the appropriate level of due diligence to engage in with the third-party risk management process or when considering the level of due diligence required on a potential business partner. A very good description of the three levels of due diligence was presented by Candace Towle in an article entitled Deep Level Due Diligence, What You Need to Know. Level 1. Level 1 due diligence typically consists of checking individual names and companies through several hundred global watch lists comprised of AML, anti-bribery sanctions lists, coupled with other financial corruption and financial crime databases. These global lists create a useful first-level screening tool to detect potential red flags for corruption activities. It also is a very inexpensive first step in compliance from an investigative viewpoint. This basic level 1 due diligence is extremely important for companies to complement their compliance policies and procedures, demonstrating a broad intent to comply with international regulatory requirements. Level 2. Level 2 due diligence encompasses supplementing a global watch list with a deeper screening of international media, typically major newspapers and periodicals from all countries, plus detailed internet searches. Such inquiries often reveal other forms of corruption-related information and may expose undisclosed or hidden information about the company, such as the third party's key executives or associated parties. I believe a level 2 should include an in-country database search. Other types of information you should consider obtaining are country domicile and international government records, use of in-country sources to provide assessments, and check for international derogatory electronic and physical media searches. Level 3. This level is a deep dive. It will require in-country boots-on-the-ground investigation. A Level 3 due diligence investigation is designed to supply your company with a comprehensive analysis of all available public records data supplemented with detailed field investigative intelligence to identify known and, more importantly, unknown conditions. Seasoned investigators who know the local language and are familiar with local politics bring an extra layer of depth assessment to an in-country investigation. Further, the direction of the work and analyzing the resulting data is often critical to a successful outcome. The key to understanding the results from both a technical perspective and understanding the results in plain English. Investigative reports should include an actionable recommendation based on clearly defined assumptions or preferable well-developed factual data points. But more than simply an investigation of the company, including a site visit coupled with on-site interviews, tells you things that you should also take a look at. Further, you may need to engage a foreign law firm to investigate the third party in its home country to determine their compliance with the home country's laws, licensing requirements, and regulations. Lastly, and perhaps most important, you should use a Level 3 to look at the proposed third party in the eye and get a firm idea of their cooperation and their attitude towards compliance, as one of the most important inquiries is not legal-based, but based upon the response and cooperation of the third party. More than simply trying to determine if the third party objected to any portion of the due diligence process or that they object to scope, coverage, or purpose of the FCPA. There are many different approaches to the specifics of due diligence. By laying out some of the approaches, you can craft the relevant portions into your programs. The level 1, 2, and 3 trichotomy appears to have the greatest favor with the regulators and one you should be able to implement in a straightforward manner. So what are today's 3 key takeaways? Number 1, a level 1 due diligence should only be used where there is a low risk of corruption. Number 2, a level 2 due diligence is sufficient in a high-risk jurisdiction if there are no red flags to be cleared or other indicia which needs additional investigation. And finally, number 3, level 3 due diligence is a deep dive, boots on the ground investigation, which should include an in-person interview, a review of the physical facilities of the third parties, and other indicia. This is Tom Fox again. Thank you for listening to this episode of 31 Days to a More Effective Compliance Program. I hope you will join me for the entire month of January, where I take a look at some of the significant changes in compliance and FCPA enforcement. 31 Days to a More Effective Compliance Program is a part of the Compliance Podcast Network.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.